You want more than just the headlines? Find out what's going on and what it means with me, Dennis Prager, this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, good morning. And Amy, we had the chance to have a little holiday lunch with Steve Moore just before Christmas.
Yeah, we sure did.
And that was nice.
Well, it took me a little longer to get there. I was supposed to be on time because I'm a punctual person, but I had the wrong address emailed to me by Stephen Moore. I'm sure it was just an oversight.
Yeah.
So I got there when you guys had your food delivered, but it was a nice event.
It was to celebrate the passage of tax cuts and what Steve Moore, among other supply-side free market economist types, think will be the result, meaning a strong economy in 2018, 4% GDP growth, and the economic opportunities and wealth creation associated with that kind of growth. For more on the topic and an opportunity to apologize publicly to you, Amy, we're pleased to be joined by Heritage Foundation economist Steve Moore. Steve, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys. Happy New Year. Yeah, you know, one thing I learned from that lunch is you guys have faces for TV, not radio. You guys are just a good-looking couple.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Now,
I really meant Amy. You know?
Yeah,
well,
Dan.
oh.
You didn't want to
But
discriminate
anyway,
against
thank you. It meant a lot to me that you guys came. And
No, it was great.
You went to the wrong place. My bad. I owe you a lunch.
Yeah.
But look, the 2018 is off to a good start. You know, we're pushing on Dow 25,000. Something almost no one expected or thought was possible. I've been in a kind of online argument with a bunch of these liberal economists who now say, well, this is the Obama economy. It's not the Trump economy. It's the Obama who drove the economy up to 25,000 on the Dow and getting us to 3.5% growth. And, you know, that's kind of nonsensical because everything we've been doing under Trump has been basically throwing Obama's policies into reverse.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that the left is not still advancing their case. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to restore your good name in the female community, Steve Moore, by agreeing with feminist Susan Faludi, who wrote over the holidays in the New York Times about
who's this again?
Susan Faludi. Susan Faludi, of great feminists like Gloria Steinem and Naomi Wolf and others like that. She suggests that what you and your friends did in D.C., Steve, was to reinforce the patriarchy that oppresses women, and that's what
Nothing to do with gender.
That's what this plan does. Let me give you an example. The Tax Cuts and Job Act systematically guts benefits that support women who need support the most. It means an end to the personal and dependent exemptions, a disaster for minimum wage workers, nearly 2/3 of whom are women, Steve.
Well, no, I mean, I think she's confused about the numbers. So we basically dramatically increased the standard deduction. So
yeah, she leaves
even
that
if,
out.
let's say that you're a single and you have no kids and you're not married, your standard deduction goes up to $12,000, up from about a little over $6,000 last year. And if, let's say, you're a single woman with kids, let's say you have 2 or 3 kids and you're a single mother, you know, not only do you get a $24,000 standard deduction, but you also would get a $1,000 increased credit, which is refundable against your payroll taxes per child. So, you know, if you're a single mother with 2 kids, you get an extra $2,000 right off the top. So I don't really understand her math.
Her math is wrong, but I just want to advance the argument.
It's hard.
In point of fact, minimum wage earners end up ahead in this because of exactly what you just explained. But these are the arguments that are being put out. And oh, by the way, we were just having this discussion before you joined us. You know, GOP.
Well, my only question is when someone writes something like that, are they just lying or are they ignorant of the bill? And don't they have fact checkers at the New York Times?
Yeah, although and by the way, lying and being ignorant not mutually exclusive. But here's the thing: 62-30, we've got a 32-point deficit. Republicans do among college-educated women, a 20-point deficit generally, and so this is something that's
among women.
Among women, and so this is something that's going to have to be addressed.
I mean, it is a big problem. I mean, when I walk down the street, I often get frowns from upscale women who feel like Trump is some kind of demon. But look, my feeling is about Donald Trump is very simple. Don't pay attention to what he says. Don't pay attention to his tweets. Pay attention to what he's doing. Pay attention to the actions that he's taking and the impact that they're having on the economy, and they're universally positive. I mean, look, I don't like a lot of his tweets. I think sometimes he acts half-moronic. Yes, he exaggerates. I will be the greatest president in the history of this country, that kind of thing. But, you look at what he's done to rebuild the economy, rebuild the stock market. Confidence is up everywhere I go. I talk to businessman and woman. They say we're feeling good about 2018. So just ride on this rising tide.
But the sad thing is we live in this high-tax state where, our federal taxpayers, we're going to have an annual cap on state and local tax deductions of $10,000. So you should have seen the lines in DuPage County, Will County, Treasurer's Office, Cook County. Cook County normally $13 million prepaid. This year it was $529 million.
Wow.
That's what the total was before the stroke of midnight.
I'm glad you brought that up, Amy, because I just wrote my column this week on this whole phenomenon. Because the whole kind of liberals' philosophy about taxes is taxes don't really matter, right? They don't really affect people's behavior. They don't change their behavior based on a change in tax policy. Well, of course, that's visibly wrong now. When people are waiting in lines for hours and hours to prepay their property taxes so they can shave a little bit off of what they're going to have to pay, yes, taxes do matter. They do affect behavior. And people say, if taxes will affect the behavior of people, to prepay, why wouldn't lowering taxes on people when they work, when they start a business, when they save, when they invest, why wouldn't we believe that that's going to increase the amount of saving and investment and work that people do? That's the whole philosophy behind this bill, is to bring money back from overseas to make America more competitive. The people are really pissed off about this tax cut. You talked about, some liberals are pissed off. The real people are really nervous about it are the Germans and the Chinese and the Mexicans and all these other countries that have been stealing jobs from America. It's not going to be so easy anymore because our tax rates are now lower than theirs are.
Yeah, and I mean, Illinois is kind of a special case, as you know, hailing from here, Steve, and people here, in terms of the political class, not understanding that people respond to incentives, they still can't figure out why Illinois, again, this year led the nation in out-migration. They think it has something to do with the balmier weather in Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, and the beautiful, the good schools in West Virginia, that kind of thing. Look, I mean, here's my point, and I think this is a very serious point. Illinois now, because we did limit the state and local tax deduction, Illinois really does have a choice now. I mean, you are going to have to cut your property taxes. There's just no question about it. If you don't cut your property taxes at the state and local level in Illinois, that out-migration that we've been talking about, Dan, of people moving out of Illinois to Wisconsin or Florida or Texas or even West Virginia or Kentucky, that out-migration is going to increase. And then Illinois is going to – you think you're in a boatload of trouble now. Wait until you get more and more people who are taxpayers who leave the state. You're going to have mountainous deficits unless something is done. And I don't know. I mean, do you think that they will respond in that way?
No.
I mean, I'm talking about the elected officials.
No.
Do you think they will cut property taxes?
Well,
they'll try and use this, say President Trump's bad, Republicans are bad, so vote Democratic.
I mean, that's what the election.
They already do vote Democrat.
Well, I know, but
secure their base.
Obviously, if there's not a change, this is something that the voters have to decide first before the elected officials will make that decision. Because the balance of power in Illinois at this point, no, it won't happen.
Yep.
It won't happen.
So I have an idea for you guys, by the way. Okay, write this one
help.
down. And this
Yes.
is very serious because it was in the New York Times, right? So do you know what they're talking about in New York and California now? Because they have sky-high income taxes. You have sky-high property taxes. They're investigating whether they can make the income taxes that people pay in New York and California, where the rate is 13.5%, charitable contribution.
Really?
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard. So that you can actually get a deduction for writing a charitable contribution to the. So maybe people in Illinois will make a charitable contribution.
Yeah, they'll make a charitable contribution of their home to the government here, because that's what's happening here. Let me ask you another question before we go. Getting back to national policy. Ovik Roy had a good piece in the Wall Street Journal about Obamacare, and the Republicans can't avoid dealing with Obamacare in 2018 because of course, the repeal of the individual mandate. But he points out that the Trump executive order reviving alternative forms of short-term health insurance give Americans an imperfect but yet real escape valve from Obamacare's cost-based regulation. He suggests the focus should be this year with respect to Obamacare, not dealing with the exchanges, but doing something with respect to the Medicaid program, doing kind of a version of Graham Cassidy focused solely on Medicaid. Do you think that's where Republicans should spend their political capital?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I love the idea of letting states experiment with how to control costs for health care under Medicaid. And basically what you would do under this kind of black grant is basically give a state like Illinois or a state like Utah or any state, a pot of money, that that is enough to cover the people who are qualified for Medicaid, but saying, look, you spend this money the way you think is most efficient, will provide the best quality of care for your people, and this is all you got. So you go over this amount, and we've done this in several states where states got waivers to experiment, and they found incredible ways to save money. I'll just give you one example. I may have mentioned this on your show before, but it's my favorite example. In Rhode Island, where they had a rate waiver where they basically gave them a block grant and said, you spend the money and spend it efficiently, they added a $20 copay. So anytime someone went to an emergency room, was that Medicaid, they had to pay $20 out of pocket. Do you know how much how dramatically their emergency room visits went down? By 40%. Mm-hmm. Just by charging people $20, so it wasn't free to people. If you do those kinds of things, states will find incredible ways to save money. Now, you could not devise a stupider system than Medicaid. Right now, when Illinois wastes $1 on Medicaid payments, you get 90 cents from the federal government, and you pay 10 cents of it. So states actually, like Illinois, have an incentive to waste money on Medicaid. I mean, there are states that actually intentionally waste money so they can get more money from Washington. It's the craziest system.
Yeah, no, well, that's exactly it. Going back to your point before about incentives and how people respond to them. He is Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, senior economist for CNN, economist at the Heritage Foundation. Steve, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, have a great week, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news,